After a season of growing you vegetables for you and your family, your soil does get depleted of some nutrients. So in this video, I'm going to talk about some of the things that we do to recharge that soil. And one of those things is right here. You can see just in front of me, this is a cover crop. This one in particular is buckwheat. And I planted this after I took the corn out of this area. What the cover crop is going to do is send living roots down into the soil and keep that soil microbiology alive. And that living soil is going to allow a lot of the nutrients to stay in this area. The other thing that's going to happen is this is a frost sensitive cover crop. So in the next few weeks when we get our first frost here, this is all going to die down and I'm just going to let it fall and stay as a mulch on top of this area. If you want a little bit more information about cover crops, we did a video relatively recently about those, and I'll put that link here. Now there's three main things we add to the soil at the end of the season to go on our raised beds, and I just wanted to show you what the soil looks like after we've added those amendments for a couple seasons here. So this bed, it had our zucchini, and you can see a couple of them are done here. It looks like some squash vine borer damage probably. And what I want to show you is kind of what the soil looks like after adding these amendments over a couple seasons. All right, so here's a close-up of what our raised beds look like. First thing you can see, there's these mushrooms that are popping up here. These are all signs that there's life in this soil. The other thing you can see is we've just left a lot of the roots. I think this is some more buckwheat that we had here. But, oh, there's a dog coming into the bed. Watch out, buddy. So let me just dig down here and kind of show you what it looks like underneath after a while there. So you can see pretty loose. I can just kind of stick my hands down in it. Are you helping me, Shango? Just a beautiful mix of very high organic material. The smell, which you can't pick up on the video, is really, really nice. And let me show you some of the things that we add to our beds in order to keep it that way. So one of those things is composted straw. So, hey bud, the beds we have here, these are the beds that we recently pulled the determinate paste tomatoes from, and those tomatoes were grown completely in straw. Over the course of the growing season, that straw composts down. It still has some texture of straw, but the smell is more like earth, and it's our go-to thing that we add to the top of our beds towards the end of the fall, once the growing season is completely ended, if we're not doing a cover crop. These straw bales were conditioned, meaning added high nitrogen fertilizer to them in the springtime, and then we planted our tomatoes there. And then over the period of time, what you can see here is I can just sort of put my hand into this straw. It's so soft and loose there. And then if I just pull some of that straw up, you can see it still looks like straw. It smells a lot more like earth, and it's dark in color because it's partially composted. And this is our go-to thing that we add to the top of our beds. It's one of the two reasons we love growing things in straw bales, is because we get this at the end of the season, besides the fact that it just grows amazing tomatoes. The other thing we add to our beds are chopped and shredded leaves. So we coordinate with landscaping companies in our area that go to properties and suck up all the leaves, chop them up. They usually have them in a big trailer, and they either have to pay to dump those at the green waste, or they sometimes just burn them. The idea that people are taking all of these stored nutrients off their property just makes no sense to me. But, you know, one man's trash is another man's treasure. So we like to coordinate with them. They do not mind at all just coming and dumping these leaves on our property, because it's one less thing that they have to do, and we benefit by getting all of this material to add to our garden. The thing I love about it is it's a variety of materials. There are little grass clippings in here, really small little sticks, as well as Obviously the leaves, pine needles, that variety means it's not sort of a monoculture as far as where we're getting our nutrients from, and they break down pretty quickly in the fall and winter season as we get snow and rain on them. Now, another thing we always add to the garden every fall is a fresh set of wood chips. We sign up for a service called Chip Drop. You can go to chipdrop.com and sign up. Just know that when you sign up, it could be even the next day, could be a few months. It's going to be a random time that you're going to get just a huge load of wood chips dumped on your property. Luckily, in our case, we're on 10 acres and we have this separate area where people can just dump things and we can use it. But when we were on our suburban property, when we got one, it just ended up in our driveway, which just really means you got to get to work right away moving them. In our case, luckily, we can leave them here, let them compost down, and then use them in our garden. Now, for the wood chips, we use them in a different way than the composted straw and the leaves. We don't actually add them directly to the beds themselves, but they go in a deep layer all along the pathways, and that's what lets us keep our relatively big garden weed-free. Let me show you what the wood chips look like after a couple seasons. First of all, you can see we are starting to get some germination of seedlings in here. That's because these wood chips have started to break down and they're now getting access to some nitrogen in there. So for example, this little tomato seedling volunteer, one thing I love about the wood chips is even if we do get plants that germinate, they're really easy to take out because the wood chips aren't really stuck in there, unlike say a clay soil. Now, as far as what the wood chips look like after a few seasons, you can see it's breaking down into this much darker, nice, rich material. So if ultimately we wanted to plant something in this area, we could just rake that top layer of wood chips out and we'd have this beautiful humus and compost to plant our plants into. Now that we've gone over how to recharge your garden in the fall, I just wanted to do a little harvest here, show you that even though the garden looks pretty ragged this time of year, we can still get a lot of produce here. So let's see what we can fill up in this bowl. These Mr. Stripey tomatoes are just about at the breaker stage where we can see they have some color, so I'm going to get them off and harvested. A few other tomatoes to get in here as well. I'm really surprised we still have tomatoes into October. Usually by this time they're done. This basil looks really good. Interestingly, these plants were totally bolted and too big, and I just cut them all the way back to the stalks in the ground, and this is what they turned into. So definitely happy with how this looks. Still have a few eggplant in here. When you see them like this, these kind of yellow ones, those ones are no good. You shouldn't eat these. It's going to be mostly seeds in there. So you want to make sure you get them when they're more tender like this. This unruly bush here is tomatillos, but we're actually still producing, so let's get a few of those as well. It's less surprising that we still have peppers. They tend to be pretty prolific late in the season, but this season in particular has just been great for peppers. We had peppers first in May of this year, so it's been about 4 months that these have been producing. Honestly, have too many peppers than we know what to do with, but let's get a harvest today. I've let these zucchini get way too big, but they should still be good for zucchini bread. All right, and last thing to get is some broccoli. We actually have some pretty big broccoli heads coming on in early October. These broccoli were started from seed indoors around early to mid-July, and then we planted them out, I think it was August 18th. Let's see if I can get in here and get this head off of there. Wow, that looks great. We do have about a month left in the growing season, so I'm going to go ahead and leave this plant and see if we can get any side shoots. A couple more big heads of broccoli here. I believe this variety is Emerald Crown. The stalk is too big to get my clippers around. There we go. Look at that broccoli. Well, there you have it. A early October harvest. Just goes to show that even though the garden may look a little ragged this time of year, it can still produce a lot. I hope these tips as far as energizing your garden early season were helpful, and hope you enjoyed the harvest. Happy gardening, everyone.